Hi everyone, my name is Arun. Today I would like to discuss about STIBO STEP terminology. So before going to that, I would like to discuss about MDM. So MDM is a master data management. It's a critical area of a business organization or a company managing the data in terms of people, uh, customer data, supplier data. The managing the data in terms of people and technology is called as a master data management. Let's take an example. Tesco has a lot of Desco or Walmart has a lot of data related to the product management. In terms of a bank, they has to manage the customer data. This is centralized repository, and the application is governed through some standard and proper process. This is called as a master data management. Product, customers, suppliers, employees, all this comes under master data as per the MDM point of view. So let's take a look for a first term, action. Basically, action is kind of a business rule that can be executed, manipulated, and perform an action. This generally the business rules are written in JavaScript in STIBO, so we can test, validate any action. We can define an action from the API, step STIBO API, and then execute and create a action on this. So this is the action, and next term is asset. Is a asset can be any type. It's like JPG, Excel, PDF document, transferring so one, and it has attributes as well. Approval. The process of pushing the data from the maintenance workspace to approved workspace in step. Um, Basically, this, this entire this MDM architecture is defined at various stages. This approval, it goes from one level to another level. If the supplier approves it, it goes to the super supplier, and it goes to the business approval. So based on the various stages defined as per the architecture, it moves from one approval to another approval. It goes to the next page. The assignee is kind of a user group, the user or a group, which the task is assigned to the work and to be performed within the workflow. Basically, it's the work will be assigned to the assignee, and as the users states that can be assigned and directly named to the user group. For all the users is maintained in the user group, and it can be assigned any of the users within the group. Attribute is a kind of a characteristic and detailed piece of information, as like every product has attributes. So let's take an example of a milk. What's the attributes? Is a milk is semi-skimmed, skimmed. It's what is a measurement? Which what's a what is the weight? Related to the weight. So all kind of it's called attributes. So every product will have the attributes, and it is the attributes are not only available for objects in a product primary hierarchy. Attribute group. So group attributes. So um, all the, I can show in the next slide for like how the attributes shows that, and examples of attributes. So all attributes can be grouped together, like similar attributes. So the products related to the some category, some fruits is a one category. So then group together and form a one fruits group, and the attribute which is related to the cosmetics. So we can define the cosmetics attributes, create a separate group. So just a grouping to make and a clear understanding attribute value. So each attribute will have a sign on each value for a particular object. Yeah. So this is the screenshot of, if you can see this system setup attribute group, and you can see this article name, description, each it has a group. Okay, UK attributes. These are the attributes related to that, and each attribute will have the preferences, attribute, translation, transformation, validity, profile, log, status. So everything is just like value. What is the values of the attributes? Is a what kind of data type, attribute validation, list of value, or just a list of value. I'm going to explain this below slide. What is list of value? So the validation basis is integer or not, minimum value, maximum value. So all we can assign the values here. So we already covered for it. Bookmark is a, hopefully you know about what is bookmark. So you can place a hold mark as a placeholder. So we can define the make as a placeholder in the STIBO. Basically we can say a shortcut for a STIBO when unsave any searches and can be saved, and any particular search, and it can be saved and as a bookmark. It just not a save. It's like any product information which you want me to grouping a particular grouping of, you want to make the particular workflow, all can be make it as a bookmark in STIBO. Business, it's kind of a rule. Automated piece of programming is like Java. I already told you, like it's a rule is written in a programming language that is called JavaScript. All rules will be defining, just like by using the steps STIBO API we can use JavaScript uh, to get the object and write the business rule against uh, uh, against the logics and defined. So in the coming over sessions, I'm going to show that how you're going to write the business logic in a JavaScript. Calculated attribute. The attribute where the value is calculated according to the specific formula. And this is like, it can be a static text that would value information from the reference object and as a number. Category profile. So it's kind of a profile, it helps the product managers and data analysts to get the overview of the entire section of the product hierarchy in various metrics and displayed in a database format. Character log, an entry that begins with this arrow symbol, which and ends with this. So it's like XML start tag and end tag. So where you define this, the tags represent the characters. it may not be found special character in Unicode and may be used uh, as a Unicode character. Climb the action that performs to take the task workflow of the out of the group to queue and assign himself as a climb. So it's like when the workflow is assigned to them and you perform the action, take a task from a workflow which is available from the queue, that you can we can climb it, that we can call it climbing the task. A classification is a particular type of hierarchy that organizes group of objects or assets. The hierarchy means is kind of a supplier hierarchy, is a brand hierarchy, which is like level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. So based on the business, so we can define how many levels you going to be required. So we create all the levels in STIBO that will maintain like a hierarchy, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. It's kind of like example like children, parent, and grandparent, grandparents. It's kind of a hierarchy maintains them. So that we call as a hierarchy. And this objects are linked to the classification through references. And and these are represented in yellow color when you're defining in a STIBO. So but it means when you look at this yellow boxes, you can understand it's a classification. Yeah, again, now the collection is just kind of a static set of objects. It's just kind of a collection, like how you are using for a similar kind of objects, and resulting it can be displayed, and the bulk actions can be performed, and the objects can be exported, and during the search process, so the objects can be exported if you make it as a collection in STIBO. Completeness score is just kind of a measurement. Step export as in the percentage to indicate this proportion. It's not much important in this case now. Condition. A condition is a type of, again, as a business rule which is written in JavaScript. It's all the business rule written in JavaScript. Just like condition, like a normal condition is used for programming languages. It's a similar way when you defining the business rule, just you will check the condition of these objects or condition any particular workflow. So we'll check based on the conditions. Context. A specific filter placed on the system data is by a particular context. It's like if you want to filter anything during the search process, export process, and you need to define the context. It's just like a combination of different dimensions, so like anything like country, language, just kind of population, ethnic group, anything. So this context you define it based. That was helpful for differentiate and get the data whatever you want during this search. Data model, the basic system configuration defining the allowed structure and make up the data within step. And also it consists of it consists of system setup data including dimension, context, object type, reference type, keys, component models, attribute groups, attributes, a list of values, units, and tags. So this so data model consists of everything. So list of values, units, tags, components. So this it is in detail uh, each of the object types we will come to know in the coming sessions. This is my first session. This is a basic to understand the terminology, but on the coming over session we'll explore more about this. What is data model? Dimensions dependent attribute. It is an attribute that has a different values and different dimension points, which actual value is determined by the context in which the attribute is. Entity is a group of master data. It's the kind of example like customer is entity, employee, suppliers, address is entity. It's like the data which represents like an object. So basically it is to store the reference data that will be utilized in the system. And also these entities are grouped into hierarchy using the references. And there's externally maintained attribute. Uh, there is one for each attribute. There is another option which needs externally maintained, which can be excluded on approval process. So we can maintain as a yes or no based on the business decision. If you maintain as yes, so it will be like the attribute is managed by external or the external system which connects the STIBO is interacting with them. If it is no, so it's no relation to that on the approval process, entire step process, entire step revision of new till the new revision of new step object. So based on the business decision, you need to choose either yes or y for this attribute. Function, a type of business rule that allows the input parameters to produce the output. It's like the function we can write when like writing a business rule in a JavaScript. It's like a generic terminology, whatever we use as part of our programming languages. And golden record, the collection of data from variety of sources based on the matching, linking, and supervising rules. It is very rarely used, as per my experience. This is not used as of now. GUI is a graphical user interface that you use for as part of design, web UI design. Hierarchy is a data structure composed of parents and children relationship. So hierarchy is can be like each uh, hierarchy, I mean to say each hierarchy is defined is like some certain levels based on the business decision, level 1, level 2, level 3, and each hierarchy has a relationship like parent, child, grandparents, grandparents. So this is the references to each of the level. So that we call as the hierarchy. Hard folder is a file system of the folders where the data can be dropped automatically into this step based on the particular configuration and applied to the this is applied to the hard folder. So this is like when you are doing any search operation and you want to store the particular file structure folder, you can that the code will be applied to the hard folder. ID, the unique identifier for all the objects in a step. So whenever you create an object, by default the ID will be created. So generally the ID we um, means we just take as a lowercase and no just like single word, no gaps. So just like we are representing this each step ID as a lower cases. So you and it's like a unique ID for like various attributes we created as part of step configuration of attributes. Image conversion is just like converting the image to high resolution. This is one of the feature we can do it as part of step, which is into the required downstream format. So the images which push we can download, so during this without loss of this clarity of the image for the high resolution. So we have a called image conversion we use as a term when you're doing this. So this is part of attributes we can create as part of attribute creation. Inbound integration endpoint. So basically this term, like when we are communicating the channel, how the data will be received by step. So for my case, like whatever the project I previously handled is a SAP system. SAP system is quite old, and we are migrating the SAP system to the STIBO. So whatever the data we have in this SAP system, we need to take into the we have to take it into the STIBO. So for that we need to use a inbound integration endpoint to get all the data from the SAP to here step. And integration endpoint is kind of a to establish a communication channel between the STIBO step and external system. So flow of the data. So that is endpoint will have this all. It's kind of a API endpoint which will have authentication and the client certification and all. So it's like fully authenticated, authorized URL which the endpoint will connect, so that the data will be secure when passing to the any other external system. So that this is we call as endpoint. Inheritance. So inheritance is a general term which is used as part of programming languages. So see, here also same. So make this data available throughout the hierarchy to the lower nodes. So it's like level 1, level 2, level 3. So the hierarchy consists of level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 based on the business. So the whatever the data is available in upper nodes, and the same data to be inherited to the lower nodes, that we call as the inheritance. So it's like acquiring the properties of one node to another node. The library, this is a set of functions that can be reused multiple times when business rules on other libraries. So it's like we cannot write this each and every time whenever required. So we just make a library, and then whenever it's required we can import and we can reuse this. So that we call as a library. Link is a parent-child relationship between the objects within the system, within the hierarchy. So that we call it just we linking it. But by default, the link will be established when you're creating a hierarchy. And list of values. List of values is kind of a just like a drop down. It's a list of values which how you are going to select this drop down. The validation base that which the attribute is only allows values to be considered valid if this belongs to the respective list of pre-configured values assigned to the attributes. Basically, this is like a static content, the static content which used when you are collecting the data from the business. Either you need as part of this MDD sheet, master data dictionary, is a kind of a sheet we use to manage it. And for that, you have the list of values which either business can fill or we can fill it as part of that. So that list of values will be showing into the drop down at the front end. So this list of values, we can back end, we can call it as a list of values, but at the front end it will be like a drop down, or it can be a radio button which has a multiple options. Localized value is similar kind of like a part of a programming language. Localized value, the attribute which is set directly to the object, that is not inherited from the level. It's it's kind of a like a, I can say it's a private. It is available only to the local. It's not available to outside the hierarchy. So it is quite opposite to the inheritance. Mandatory attribute that indicates that the products for all the subproducts must have the value to be specified. So whenever you define the attribute, it has some mandatory attributes which has to be selected. In the maybe in the next session, I can show you that how these attributes are created. So for creating an attribute, it has the mandatory options as STIBO step recommends. So we have to be select that like this is the object to be approved, and some specific attributes which is yes, no options also there. So that we need to select it before creating a multi-value. Multi-value is kind of something like the radio button. When the radio button, when you are selecting it, so it has a multiple options. So from the multi-valued, it has to select one option, so that we call it the multi-valued option. Object, everything is an object as part of step STIBO. Image, classification, attribute, workflow, business rule. Okay. And object type is kind of a multi-value. Attribute type is a list of values, is object type. What kind of is image? What's a type of image? And also it includes this entities, products, product category, alternative hierarchies. Alternative hierarchies in the type is mean to say like the hierarchy which can show the one product, like a milk product. If you search it in the website as a milk product, it shows like milk product in various ways. So first one is the hierarchy. What are the hierarchy? It shows like milk, semi-skimmed milk, full fat milk. After that is organic, and it's normal milk. So it's a various categories of main hierarchy. So instead of displaying this main hierarchy, there is an alternative hierarchy. We can go directly to different hierarchy. Like we can create a alternative classifications like organic milk. So specialized milk. So like organic milk, we can directly go to the organic milk and select this full fat milk. So this is kind of another is alternative classification, in the sense it is another type of classification. So it means the products in the website can access is a different way of classification that we call as alternative classification. It's kind of an objective type. So outbound integration endpoint is a communication channel which used for outbound data. Multi-valued, an attribute which contains one or more values for a specific object, is that we think we already discussed it. Post processor is a plugin within IAP framework that allows a step to act as import, export, such as starting workflows, sending notification. Is post processor, and the pre-processor it's kind of a with an integration endpoint framework that allows a step to modify the message prior to import export. and it is used for various functionalities such as pre-validation, format conversion, filtering, etc. And basically, this preprocessor is just as part of business rule. We write it whenever we validating any step, or before validating the step object, import, export, anything data. So the before we do that, before import and export, we do the preprocessor checks and validation checks. Okay, that we use as part of STIBO. That is inbuilt functionality from the STIBO that we are not adding anything on this. Primary product classification is basically it's a hierarchy that allows a different type of object to be stored once in a database, and each object within the hierarchy has a unique ID. Basically, this primary product classification is the main classification, which is a mandatory main and classification. It has to be there as part of when you're designing any product information management system. It's a main product primary classification, and these are represented in a blue box in STIBO STEP. Product template, it's a design template to determine what data to be appear on the printed page, either in positioning or in styling. The product variant is kind of a like the character of the means like I mean to say the t-shirts, what size, color, and the variants of the single product is called as a product variant. Proof view is just a tab. It is nothing to know about. It is just like a web UI to display as part of product template view. Publication is one of the user types which referring to the object in the publication green hierarchy. So that is a publication. It shows in a green in a hierarchy, which in a step when you are creating a step workflows. Public API, it is a server-side function which has been exposed to the to be used to the business logic. This includes many functions to create, get, set data, such as values and references. It is, I mean to say, it's like the RESTful API which has all get, post, delete. It's similar way, similar way of the server side function which is being exposed to the, when you are creating a business logic. It has the same functions like create, get, and set data, and generally for a normal data, when you're sending the data, we use for port. Here it's the set data as the values and references, and also it has including the logging and sending the mails as well. Purge is a removal of object from the database, which is whenever is don't require an object, it can be purged. Queue is a kind of a queue which the messages are processing asynchronously. This is like there's a queue which manages. This is like this not been used as of now. Very rarely people will use it. As per my experience, which is very rare to use. Reference is association between the objects with the step system. Special character is a part of programming languages. I hope you guys are aware of it. State, a step is within the workflow, which is a specific where is a specific user group or system can be assigned to complete the task. It's a state, like once moving one state to another state during the workflow. Step. The STIBO is a company, but is a step is actual the word we use for managing the master data software application, which provides business managers to single source, single store database. which is store, manage, repurpose all the product information for publication and syndication. So it just manages all the data, um, all the product information managed. That's we call as a STIBO step is called as a product information management system. Step design is just a step plugin design that allows the step database to be pulled into the pages, which is it has to be defined in a web UI. But the step XML is kind of a language for a step which can be used for importing, exporting data as transferring configuration between this steps system. So we just need to select this, what are the components you need to import, and you need to um, that we need to export in the format of XML, and then and import again in the to change it, like moving the data from one environment to another environment. We use this step XML basically to so that we already developed one particular solution in development, and we want to move the same solution to next upgrade to the next environment, like stage pre-prod, so that we can take the step XML, all the data. So we simply just import the data in the format of step XML and export into this next level environment. Super type is kind of a major category of the data within step, including asset, classification, entity, product, publication. Okay, so these are the super type. Super edit. Super edit is status displays which affected components and serves as a guidance to admin users selecting which component to be implemented when using configuring their web UI. Super user, the user which is administrative privileges within the system, is like like we can create a normal user, super users as part of this STIBO lines. I can show you this in the next session, like what is installation step, and during installation steps we can create like how different users can be created, super user and normal users based on the privileges. Task is kind of work or action that can be completed as part of the workflow process or STIBO workflow process. Transition is a change of a task from one state to another within our workflow. Our workflow will have many stages. Just changing from one state to another state is a transition. Unique key. The unique key is kind of the terminal itself is unique. It means no two objects will have the same ID. So whenever you're creating a STIBO objects, no two ID will have the same ID. So that is a unique ID, unique key. Is a unique key for each STIBO objects, whatever the objects you created as part of the step configuration. User permissions, rules that allows this restrict the users performing this certain functions within the system. A validation type, this is a kind of a validation which is like whenever you're doing creating attributes such as date, integer, fraction, or text LOV. So all the validation identifies what is accepted validations for when you are creating attribute values part of the data types. So this all validation ways to be performed as part of the STIBO. Web UI. So web UI is the interface to access the step database in order to edit, download data, assets, and it basically is a web, whatever the data you added, like a LOV if you are added, or if you have as a multi-value anything data related to the either text box, all the data related to the attributes, which will be directly reflect into the web UI. So, but again, you need to configure the web UI based on the business rules. So the same data, if you whatever the data you declared as part of the attributes like LOV, so the data will be reflected in the web UI. Transition, I think we already talked about it. Workbench is an interface managing the step data. Is that is like Workbench will be after available after you log into this STIBO. So so you need to be authenticated the Workbench to access the Workbench workflow. The rules that allows the strict these users performing certain objects within this system. So that is the workflow rules. Workspace is a set of independent copies that database objects that provides the revision of specific view of objects. Basically, the workspaces are organized into separate areas, including the main and approved. Two workspaces to main and approved workspaces. The main workspace area where the data maintenance takes place, and approved workspace is a non-editable snapshot of the data which has been determined and has been acceptable by publishing to download the system. So two different workspaces. So it's kind of a one is like a staging, one is kind of a which is been approved and delivered. So two types of workspaces will be there. So this video is the end of the STIBO terminology. So these are the basic types of terminology that has to be used for STIBO as part of STIBO step. And in the next video, I'm going to share how the attributes can be created in STIBO and also how we can install and set up the workspace in STIBO. So hope you like this video. Please like, share, comment, and in it comments in the comment section. So I'm happy to help you if any questions. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for watching. Bye.